Okay, so Ajit, what's the presentation you are holding up today?
It's a health presentation, so it's about overweightness in the world and obesity.
Okay, so Aditya, just got to listen to Ajit's presentation, and then you need to give me an opinion or a short presentation, a mini presentation of what you learned from Ajit's presentation. And Tanvi will join soon, so she will also do the same. Got it?
Mm,
No, I'm not able to hear you properly. I just like this.
Yes, sir.
All right, okay. Okay, Ajit, you can start. And two students will be joining. One is Tanvi, and another one is Dakshin Siddharth. He is a senior to you. He is in the 12th grade, and he expressed his interest to join today since he had a free time. So he might be joining, but let us not wait for him. But we'll start. Go ahead.
Yes, let me just pull it up.
Yeah, take it.
This topic. Today's topic's about obesity, which by me. Yeah. What is obesity? According to the World Health Organization, obesity is the abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that presents a risk to health. So basically, if you have like lots of fat, like you're growing lots of weight and stuff, that's like obesity. That's like the main definition of obesity. So like it's a little fluid. There's a little fluidity to the definition. Like it's not, there's no one set definition though. Like this is like the basic definition, I'd say, from the World Health Organization. And then like obesity has a body mass index of typically above 30. So like the body mass index, it uses like the mass of a human's body and it's relative to its height, and it factors other things like age and stuff, but and like it calculates like a score between it's between 0 and 30, and like the acceptable range is around 18 to 25, and like that's like the around the range. So like 15 to 20 below is something like on the lower end. I'm forgetting what it is, like 15 probably it's considered underweight and like malnutrition, and meaning you're not eating enough. So like below 15 is underweight. 15 to 25 is typically the good range for weight, this index. And then like 25 and above means overweight, which I'll talk about in a second. But and then 30 is obese. So like it compares like the height to its body. So like can be, it's while it's all, it's not
Ajit,
like
sorry for the interruption. Ajit, sorry to interrupt. One second. Dakshin, you hear me?
yeah.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, sir. Good to be back after like 5 long months.
Right, right. So, Dakshin, we have Mr. Rachit Venkat, who is from the US batch. He is 1 year junior to you, and he always makes presentation on Sundays. And we have my nephew, Aditya Dinagaran. He's from Bangalore. And we also have Tanvi, who is in the 5th grade, and she's from Chennai. So these are your classmates now. Ajit is making the presentation. He just started. You haven't missed any vital part. Just go ahead, listening to Ajit, and then you can ask questions, and we will have a learning discussion. And when you're up to leave, you can tell me a little advance over the message or something, and we'll go forward. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yes, Ajit, you can please carry on. Thank you.
Okay, so like a body mass index, it's not like the best measurement, I'd say always, mainly because like sometimes like you see like those big people with big muscles, and like they may be not that tall, and like they still have a lot of weight though. Like the weight is different, and because like it comes from the muscle buildup, not like the fat accumulating, like the bad fat accumulating. It's the muscle protein buildup, which like typically makes them So like they'll be rated higher on the body mass index scale, but like still overall, like most people, that's like a very rare exception because not many people have like that big of a muscle buildup. So like it's typically okay to use so to see whether people are healthy or not. And like the opposite of obesity is malnutrition. So like that's like where like people are starving. Like you may hear in like other in like poorer countries like in Africa or like even in Afghanistan, like many people are malnutrition, meaning they're not getting enough food. So like that's like the basic. Yeah, you know what it is. And then like it's rising across the globe, which is the main thing. Like it's not in India, it's not terribly rising. Like it's rising to some extent though. Like it's not compared to the globe, India is actually doing a lot better in this thing. Like a lot of Asian countries like China and Japanites also are doing pretty good in this thing compared to Western nations and then like poor and then other poorer nations like in South America and like stuff. They're all being rising terribly right now, the obesity rate. And like it's not nearly enough is being done to combat it. And then like overweight is similar to obesity, but it's a little less severe. So like it's like again, body mass index of 25 to 30 is typically considered overweight. And like one thing to remember is that obesity means you're also overweight. So like overweight is anything above 25, and then like obesity is just another thing you have when you're above 30. So like you can be both overweight and obese at the same time. And though you so that's like the thing. And so like if you're obese, you're overweight as well. So like it's a little less severe, but like still it's a problem though. And like it's like an indication like you're close to being obese and like you have to cut down. It's like a borderline basically. And then like causes of obesity. So and then like the effects here. That's a mistake by me, but like causes are eating too much. So like eating too much is one thing, like, and then like these two combination mainly, eating too much and exercising too little. Those are the two main factors that lead to obesity. So like if you eat too much, you need to burn off all those calories. And like if you don't burn off those calories through exercise, then like those calories will turn into fat, which like if we looked at the definition and last slide, it was the accumulation of fat. So like if you don't exercise off those things, it will be converted to fat, which will make your weight grow. And like that's like the thing, that's like the combination here that basically is eating too much and exercising too little. Like I mean, like not one of these factors alone will cause you to be obese. Like Michael Phelps, you may have remembered him as like that Olympic swimming medalist. He won 5 gold medal 5 times in the thing. I think he won lots of gold medals in swimming, and like he ate like close to 10,000 calories, which is like 5 times like the daily intake of a that's the recommended intake of a person. And like he burns it off those calories, and like he's still very healthy because of that. He does a lot of exercise. So like you need to find a good balance of it. So like if you're exercising too little, then like you can maybe eat a little less, still eat the bare minimum like needed to have your energy needs met, but like you have to compensate the exercise for. So like if you want to eat more, you can, but like you have to exercise is more. And like there's other smaller conditions, like health conditions may affect it. Like if you're going to the like let's say you're all nearly always sick, then like you couldn't always be active and yet you still need to eat. That will cause you to have more obesity right now. And like that itself will cause more obesity, like if you're sick. And like it'll just tie into this, like you will exercise less, which will cause more obesity. And like stress and sleep. So like stress in general, and like I should say mental health in general, like here, because like stress is a like if you have stress, then like it's associated with like eating more to like calm down that stress. So like eating more, eating more, it again relates to their eating more. And then like stress, like people who are stressed typically won't exercise, will exercise less. Like people who exercise generally have less stress. So like that's like the studies say. So like stress kind of plays into a role into having this like having this to happen. And then like stress in general, like mental health, I should say, like it, like if you have too much to study and like stuff, you're generally not gonna have like go outside and exercise, and like you'll have other stuff like not sleeping as well. It's like sleep also is very important for in the causes. Like you need a good sleep, and like you shouldn't undersleep, but also you shouldn't oversleep as well, because undersleeping just leads to more stress, and like you'll off, and like stress will lead to that. While you oversleep, like if you sleep like 12, 13 hours, it may be good, but like it's not. But like sleep is actually shown to actually help cause like weight gain and it's like that. And like it's obvious why, because you're not exercising at all. So like you're not being active, and like you may have just taken those calories for dinner, and like you'll sleep with it. And like that's like the reason why I oversleep. Like you still sleep doesn't do too much unless if you do oversleep, basically. Then that's where some of the problem comes. But like that's where that. And finally, genetics is one thing which like is not is like not really that preventable. Like if your father or mother has more obesity, then like you probably are also gonna have obesity. So like that's like the thing in here. That's like so like it's like genetics play a role. Like with type 1 diabetes, for example, that's typically a genetic trait that passes on to that passes on generations. So like, and that will increase obesity rates, which we'll talk about there. So like that's like one reason. And then like afterwards the effects, there's some here, ignore that here, the effects here. Effects here, diabetes, there's so much effects: diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, and then like overall increased death rate or mortality rate, and then like more stress. So like the cycle of stress. Let me choose a better color. Yeah. So like you have stress, and then like you get come more weight, which will cause you more stress. So like this is a very bad cycle typically, and like this is like the cycle that will just make people try keep obesity. Like that's like a what stress is one of the biggest factors of obesity in like a lot of places, especially in the US. So like that's like one thing. And there's other things as well though that's making it. And like it's not to say like all these will come right away after you're obese. Like it's a long-term effect. It will build up over time. If you continuation of obese, like if you're obese and then you suddenly decide to crack down, then like the effects will be minimal from these. But like if you continue to be obese, then like you'll have this. And like this is just a short list. There's lots more conditions like that will affect your kidneys. It could affect your like pregnant women that are obese are more likely to have unhealthy child. There's a lot of effects of obesity, and like overall these effects often will just some people will use it as a way to like cut down on an obesity. Like it will be like a indication that they're going too far in their weight, but like others will just continue being who they are. Like they'll just let the effects of these diseases further make them more weight, and like that will end them, and like that will ultimately lead them to a very unhealthy life. So right now 39% of the world is obese right now. So like currently obese or overweight. So like this is as of 2020 reports. So like it probably increased because of the COVID pandemic, which we can talk about the effects of that in obesity. So like COVID, obviously, since you're at home, like you're not going to exercise as much, and like you're not going to be as active. And like although like and like the eating will be around the same, and like some people will actually grow in their eating because they're eating from their home and stuff. So that probably increased the number slightly. So like 39% still is a very big number. Considering the world hunger population, well, malnutrition population, only 10% of the people right now in the world are malnutrition. So like nearly 40% now are obese. So like that's nearly 4 times the number there. So like that's a very stunning thing there. And like this is from 2014, this map, and like this is the last slide. I'll just explain some of the world stuff about obesity here. And like, yeah, so like a map of obesity, right, 2014. So like this probably increased significantly after. Like in 2023, right now, it's probably a lot more than this. And like except like it shows like the general trends of where obesity is happening. And like it's not in like poor countries. Like there's increases in some concerning increases in them, but like it's not as much in Africa here, like here, and then like in Asia. Like these are actually some of the lowest obesity places, and it's the main places are in Europe. I mean US, and in Europe, and then like in Middle East and like South America, and like Australia you can include as well. So like it's a very big part of the world that is facing this. And like it's like, let's talk about some examples here. Like for example, like so like you may see Japan is one of the lowest obesity. Less than 2% of the population is obese. And like you can see India and like several other countries into that category. But like Japan, like it's a developed country. Like it's like on par with a level of like France and like stuff in terms of development. And yet it's very kept its obesity rate low. And like there's a very simple explanation to why that is. That's because Japan penalizes like whoever has an obese weight, and like it will basically, if you don't fix the obesity problem on yourself in a matter of months, then like they'll put you in like a camp where like they'll force you to basically reduce your weight. So like Japan has a very forceful obesity policy. And like that's why less than 1% of Japan's population is obese. And like they realize the risk why. Like it will help. That's why Japan has also one of the highest life expectancies rates. Like it's like 86 years old about. That's the Japan's life expectancy. Because like obesity, there's so little obesity. Like obesity leads to a higher mortality rate and all these diseases that can cause that, because Japan is like that. Because Japan regulated obesity like that, it's also the and like some other countries like India, it's more or less there's also some hunger problem in India. Like more people are still malnutrition in India, but like India is still growing a lot, and like it's relatively help maintaining the obesity rate. It's growing a little bit now in the past few years. Of course, I've been seeing even in myself that people are there, but like overall India, it's like is pretty good compared to the world in this measure, and like it's decreasing the malnutrition rate and like that, while not to increasing obesity rate too much, which is a good thing. Comparatively, and like the highest obesity rate, it's in these Pacific Island countries. You could barely see them. There's a red dot there and there's a red dot there, but like those are the highest rate of obesity. And like the reason why is Nauru for specifically, the country of Nauru has a 70% obesity rate. 70%, and which is a stunning number, like nearly set to over 2/3 of the population. So like the reason why, and like a lot of these Pacific Island countries has over 50% obesity rates, and like the reason why is mainly because like they're an island country, and like there's not much agriculture in their society. Like in India, there's a lot of agriculture happening, but like in those countries, there's not. So they rely on like imports, I should say, of food, and like they want to, and they're often getting imports typically like are coming from big companies which typically want like they're not typically the most health conscious of the thing, and like they typically order what is cheap and what is a lot of quantity because they need to not starve. So like that's like the main thing, and like they get a lot of like a food that is like had like very big amounts of fat. There's lots of cholesterol, and like there's not enough fruits or vegetables because like typically the fruits and vegetables typically they'd be like spoiled by the time they come there because it's still a very isolated part. It will take some time for ships to come to the island. Like many of these islands don't even have airports in them. So that's like one thing. And then like yeah, this is probably like this is the reason why these islands, but like not far behind in this is the US, which like US is seeing as concerning growth right now. Like it's about right now nearly 1/6 is obese, and like that's not overweight, just obese. And like overweight, it's close to 45% of the population in the US. So like if you factor in overweights, but obese nearly 16% of adults. And then like what's the main concern is the childhood obesity rate, meaning the children obesity rate is about 1/3 of the nearly 33% of the population is obese in the US. Yes, so like nearly 33% of the child population is, and like that's a concern because like these children they're young and they have these obesity rates. They won't have the effects right away, but like when they go adults, like that's why the thing is, and like COVID just made things worse. Like the obesity rate they told increased even more, because of like the lack of activity in children and due to the pandemic. So like that's like another thing, and like the US is just not doing enough to combat it. Like the school, I even have experience. Like the school lunches here are very unhealthy. They often serve soda and like cookies with the lunch, and like people often neglect the actual lunch in favor of those. Like they have their typical lunch is pizza and burgers, which are high in cholesterol and like that. And like that's not factoring in like only like very small percentage of Americans are doing like the actual 60 minutes of exercise required for them. Like children are expected to have 60%, 60 minutes of exercise or an hour of exercise, but many of them are not. And like this goes again to the factor of high consumption rate of like especially unhealthy food and like low exercise level, which cause the obesity rate to grow. Like there's already concern of that. So like and like the life expectancy, like it was already declining from 2017. COVID made it worse and like declined it further. Like it's actually decreasing in the US right now. It was at a peak of 79 years, and right now it's at 76 years right now. Oh, so like that is a big different deal in like terms of it. And like there's like a lot of factors that's leading to the US, but like the school lunches is just one of the main things. And like it's just in general, like the fast food as well. Like a lot of fast food is in the US and it's spreading across the world. Like you're see like even in India and China, like it's spreading, the fast food industry is spreading, and like they're not facing the effects right away, but like it's something of a caution. And like there's other countries, and the thing Europe also is facing that mainly because of it, of adopting the US fast food culture. And like it's like a lot of these countries are over obese, and like they're just not doing enough to regulate it. But like you don't need to go to Japan's level to regulate it, but like at least moderate the school lunches, and like try to like at least encourage more exercise in the schools. Like if like they're not doing enough of it, and like it's actually not, and it's only ever increasing in the US. So like that's like the thing there. Like yeah.
Okay, so the data analysis was very vast. Before I give my analysis and asking some questions to Achyut, Dakshin, Aditya, Tanvi, do you have any questions? Dakshin, would you like to ask any questions to? based on what you have
Yes,
understood?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, go. Yeah.
So, first of all, there was a great presentation, Achyut. It was remarkable. So, based on your presentation, I'd like to ask you a question. So, let's say you're the president of the United States right now. So, what are some of the steps, apart from the basic steps that you mentioned in the PPT? What are some of the other steps that you would personally take to ensure that obesity goes down, the rate of obesity goes down in the United States?
Okay, thank you for those comments. But anyway, so the US, right now, if I was the president of the US, like some of the things I would do, like as mentioned in the presentation, like I wouldn't go as far as Japan is going, like in the terms of regulating and sending them to camps, but like to help reduce the obesity rate, but definitely help it will be mainly fostered in the school. So like basically if like kids are right now, the childhood obesity rate is the one that's mainly increasing a lot in the US right now, nearly to 1/3, and it's rising because of COVID. So definitely first fix the school lunch system, and they tried that in the 2010s with Michelle Obama. And although it seemed to have worked in the short term, like in a very 1 or 2 years, but like in the long term, it had no effects, as it was often it made the food quality go worse. And like there's also other concerns. And like kids actually didn't want to stopped eating lunch altogether. And many parents just packed the McDonald's, which kind of went against the purpose of the thing. So if the school lunches need to be tasting good, but they need to be tasting good enough and have good quality yet it has to yet it has to be healthy and not that. So that's a problem there. So you have to the only way you can really do that is to spend more on school lunches. Like right now, private corporations are controlling the school lunch industry. Like it's not like the government is providing them. The government is paying private companies to provide the lunches, and they often want the cheapest, most efficient way to give them lunches. So I would want to scrap that, and they want to just give the government the right to do it, and they have to do it, give the lunches like that. And the exercise is the other part of it. You can a good meal is not, and you have to complement that with exercise as well. So exercise the way, and now this will be a little harder to regulate, because typically schools will only, they'll have a physical activity, typically class, but that will typically last only until 8th or 9th grade, and afterwards it'll be gone. It will not be used at all, and it will be more of an elective than an actual course, and many people don't choose that. And even in the classes, I noticed only half the kids are actually exercising. The other half is just doing nothing and just standing up there, and they're not doing it. Even in an elementary school, there's lots of people who just doesn't care about exercise as much, which we need to get rid of that mentality. So the purpose of gym class and all that, they just make it more strict, I'd say, in terms of the grading system. They need to exercise, they need to do it. I wouldn't say go over, if they don't exercise this much, then you'll be severely punished and stuff. But you have to definitely give them a grade and try to force them to improve in some measure, in order to decrease their resistance to exercise. Because if you foster, then in the kids, then it will be overall effective for adults. So that's the thing I'd do.
Okay, Aditya, Tanvi, do you have any questions towards Ajit's presentation?
No, but it was a very nice and detailed presentation.
Achut Anna's presentation was really very nice, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with both of you. His presentation was very good. One common question, and I want first of all Achit to answer this question, and then I would like to ask Dakshin, Siddharth, Aditya, because we have only 6 minutes in this window, and after that, after a short break, we will resume with a new window. My question to Achyut is, you just mentioned while at the due course of answering Dakshin Siddharth's question, children are ignoring this exercise mentality, and they also are giving only less kind of even a visionary thought about the health and fitness. And during the presentation, you spoke about COVID's slash on the contribution towards obesity at least 4 or 5 times. And my question to you, Achyut, is, you see, basically, if you see an overview of this world's travel, we actually forecast a lot of things like the pandemic that we got struck down in 2019. More things to come, like not very fatal in nature, but we will survive, but we will always be pestered and troubled. Pandemics, then earthquakes, and natural calamities, and all that. How do you think one person can always keep the health regard unwavered besides all these kinds of uh, troubles that are coming and hitting in our face? Like, I go to the gym and I work out for about 5 months, and I'm at the peak of my health. I'm down with the viral fever for 5 days, and all the 5 months go in vain. I go for swimming class, being a teenager, and I learn new skills in the swimming art for about 3 months. And this pandemic strikes again, and the lockdown has been announced, and I stop my swimming classes. And for the next 2 years, I lose my immunity because of the lockdown that I was experiencing for 2 months. And for the next 2 years, I'm paying the price. This is how, this is how people's cycle is being disturbed and devastated. Do you have a solution package for this? How one can have an unwavering kind of health mechanism so that irrespective of all the troubles and struggles that are coming in our way, we still have to march on. What should we do for that?
Okay, so like I wouldn't say there's no like complete solution. Like I probably may not give like the best solution for this. But when the pandemic, like often like public officials and like all of them noticed the short-term impact. COVID was and like their fears were justified because COVID was a new virus then, and it was like we didn't know much about it yet, and like how lethal it is. Like we didn't have data then and to advise it. So like it felt better to put a lockdown and be safe than sorry about the virus. And like the death rates then were pretty high among COVID. And however, the thing is, COVID, however, like they were, a lot of them were actually not, like the lockdowns actually affected people more than anything. Like there's a long-term effect of the lockdowns as well. There's COVID effects as well, but long-term COVID, but like the lockdowns mainly had a more effect on the economy. And then in the health itself, like the exercising and like all that they were not doing. So like the best thing to do is just like it's just try to simulate the thing better there. So just simulate the thing better, and simulate like the thing. So by simulate I mean just like try to like find like try to like
Like
run through this.
induce and motivate the people. That's what
Yeah,
you're meaning by the words. Okay. All right.
like stimulate by motivating people, and also just showing like we have all this technology, right? Like with all this computers and thing, and like we can easily and we can run simulations of the globe through it, and like we can tell how it is. Like AI is growing faster. Like this would be a very good use of AI to like try to find find what the best thing to do is, and like what the effects are, and like it's studies, and like it won't take a long time to do these studies. Like you can produce a result in 1 to 2 hours right now of these studies. And yet with these tools like there, and like they were saying that things there's research about this, and yet we largely ignored it during it. So like we let our fears overall all take over us. Like I'd say, like rely on these studies more and
Right.
use it for, because it will help with the health benefits, long term and the short term.
Right. Fine. Windows getting windows getting closed, and Achit has given a best answer. We'll meet after 5 minutes, guys. Join the new window after 5 minutes.
Okay, sir. Bye, sir.
Yeah. Bye. Bye. Meet you soon.